Welcome, everyone, to Reality. This is our Wednesday night worship and study group, and we're so glad that you're able to join and participate with us this evening. Um, we're grateful for every time that you can join in with us. And let me remind you of the Zoom meeting that we have following the study. It's a time of where we sort of catch up with each other and process the lesson a little further. It's a really enjoyable and fruitful time together. So let me encourage you to do that as well as soon as the study is over. We're going to step away from our first Samuel study that we've been doing this fall, and this past Sunday was the first Sunday of Advent. Advent is the season of preparation. Advent, the word itself means coming or arrival. It's about preparing ourselves for the arrival of Jesus. And now, like those who were preparing themselves for his coming the first time, we now follow along in their footsteps, learning to wait and prepare ourselves for his arrival when he returns. But there's also another element to it in that Jesus is coming to us every day, every moment of the day. And are we prepared for that? Are we preparing ourselves for that? So there's those kinds of things to consider. When we talk about Advent, it's not about exercising some practices for 4 weeks before Christmas, but it's about gathering in practices that we need to be practicing all year long. Things that we have forgotten, or things that maybe are new to us that help us be more open to his arrival into our life moment by moment, and for sure on that day that is coming when he returns as King of Kings. Anyway, we're going to take the next few Wednesdays before Christmas and look at a study that is an Advent study, and I'm calling it the Unexpected Christmas. And we're just going to dive into some of the story of the first parts of the Gospels that give us a clue about how these people encountered Christmas for the first time. Let me ask this question. What are you expecting for the next 30 days? Now, if we were sitting in a room and being able, I'm guessing on some of the answers that I would hear. I would hear somebody say, oh, one of the things I'm expecting is quiet. It's been a super busy fall, just lots and lots of energy and events and things. And so one of the things they're looking forward to is just some quiet, peace and quiet. Then I can hear someone saying, I'm getting to see some of my family, which in this day and time of COVID, oh my gosh, getting to be with people that you haven't seen in a while, it can just be a treasure. Some people may say, I'm expecting chaos, and I don't know all that would mean, but there might be travel involved, there might be grandkids involved, there might be all kinds of stuff that they could be thinking about. So some might say sugar cookies. That would be my answer. That's what I'm expecting. Presents. I'm expecting gifts this Christmas. So, what are you really expecting for the next 30 days? I want you to notice something. We all have December 25th on our calendars. Even those people who don't know Jesus, even those who are not Christian, they have December 25th on their schedule. Every year on schedule, we see Christmas come from a mile away. I mean, I have some of my kids who work for Hobby Lobby, and Hobby Lobby starts preparing for Christmas, I think, in August or September. They start getting in items for that season. I mean, we see it from a mile away, but the first Christmas was not that way. The first Christmas was a complete surprise. Totally and completely unexpected. Nobody saw Christmas coming that first Christmas. Now we're going to talk about the unexpected Christmas for the next few Wednesdays. Let's look at we're going to look at Luke, the Gospel of Luke, chapter 1, and sort of walk through the experience of Zechariah and Elizabeth, and let them speak to us about this unexpected Christmas. Join with me. It's Luke chapter 1. We'll start with verse 5. We'll just read verses 5 through 7 and then stop and make commentary. And then that's what we'll do as we work our way through the first chapter of Luke, is read a few verses, make some commentary, and then move on. I'm reading from the NIV version. This is Luke chapter 1, starting with verse 5. I'm just going to read 5, 6, and 7. In the time of Herod, king of Judea, there was a priest named Zechariah, who belonged to a priestly division of Abijah. His wife Elizabeth was also a descendant of Aaron. Both of them were righteous in the sight of God, observing all of the Lord's commands and decrees blamelessly. But they were childless, because Elizabeth was not able to conceive, and they were both very old. Okay, so once upon a time there was this semi-retired couple named Zach and Beth. Both Jewish, both beyond childbearing years, no kids. They had a nice little place, sort of at a bedroom community just outside of Jerusalem. Zach was a Jewish priest, which meant he worked at the temple in Jerusalem on occasion. There were so many priests in this day and time that Zach wouldn't be there, but only 2 weeks out of the year. Let's read the next few verses, 8 and 9. Once, when Zechariah's division was on duty and he was serving as priest before God, he was chosen by lot, according to the custom of the priesthood, to go into the temple of the Lord and burn incense. Now, let's back up a little bit and just say, what do priests do? Well, a lot of what they do was just really mundane tasks. I mean, trim the candles, sharpen the butcher knives, answer the phone, sweep the floor. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot that was really what they did. Now, there was about 300 priests at the temple at any given time. There were so many, I think there was 10,000, 18,000 in the land, so only like 300 could be at the temple at any given time, and they would serve for 2 weeks, and then they went home after that until the next year. But if you were lucky, a priest got picked for certain special jobs. Their name was drawn out of a box. That's what it means by drawing lots. And they were then chosen to offer incense. One of the special things was being chosen to do incense in the temple, burning incense on the altar of incense in the temple. Now, the altar sat right next to the curtain that separated the holy place from the Holy of Holies place, where God's presence was. And they burned incense in the morning, and then they would burn incense in the evening. And in the evening, after you burned incense, the priest would come back out and stand on the portal of the temple, where there was a gathered crowd, gathered community there for prayers, and he would speak a blessing to them for that evening. Now, this was a big deal to get chosen for this. The incense was it was a special recipe of spices only used in the temple, and it would create this smoke and this fragrance that would fill the temple and even out into the courtyard. That smoke and that fragrance represented the prayers of all the people going up to God. And again, like I said, this was done every morning and every evening. Now, a crowd would gather out front of the temple. The priest would then go into the temple alone, and then he would come to the altar of incense, and he would, this again was next to the curtain of the Holy of Holies. And he would clean off the altar of incense of the ashes from the previous morning or the previous night. And then he would put on new coals from a censer that he was carrying, the new coals onto the altar, and then he would put the spices on top of those coals, and it would start burning this new incense that he just put on, and smoke would begin to come up, and then the fragrance would begin to come up. And at that point, after you'd put the incense on, the priest would bow for some prayers, and then he would turn and he would walk out, and then he would stand on the porch or the portal, and then he would speak or offer a blessing for the people. And all the people there had gathered for prayer, and they were waiting. They would wait for this priest to come back out and speak this blessing. And most often it was Numbers chapter 6, verse 24 through 26. It would sound something like this: May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you, and so on and so forth. That would be the blessing. This is what Zach expected. This, when he was chosen, it was very special. Probably you only get to do this once in your lifetime. And so here he was getting to do this. But something else happened. Something unexpected happened as Zach was doing this. Let's read verses 10 through 17. And when the time for the burning of incense came, all the assembled worshippers were praying outside. Then an angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing at the right side of the altar of incense. When Zach saw him, he was startled and was gripped with fear. But the angel said to him, Do not be afraid, Zechariah. Your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you are to call him John. He will be a joy and delight to you, and many will rejoice because of his birth. For he will be great in the sight of the Lord. He is never to take wine or other fermented drink, and he will be filled with the Holy Spirit even before he is born. He will bring back many of the people of Israel to the Lord their God, and he will go on before the Lord in the spirit and power of Elijah, to turn the hearts of the parents to their children, and the disobedient to the wisdom of the righteous, to make ready a people prepared for the Lord. Now, in this moment where Zach has now offered the incense and he's praying, he's bowed to pray, something takes place that is now off script. This is completely unexpected. Now think about it. Put yourself in Zechariah's shoes. An alien creature has now appeared next to the altar. The Bible gives this alien creature a name, an angel. Zach freaks out. I would too. Think about it for a moment. Here is this creature that is not human, now standing next to you, in front of you, next to the altar. And then this alien speaks to you in your language. This alien speaks to Zach and tells Zach, your prayers have been heard. You know, the prayers that you and Beth have been praying about having a child. Well, those prayers have been heard, and you and Beth will have a son, and he will be great in the sight of the Lord. He will make ready a people prepared for the Lord. Now think about these moments really taking place. This has been a big day. Zach has had a big day. There's been the incense, and then an angel, and now the story of a son and being a forerunner for the Messiah. Now, on the spot, this is how Zach responds. Verse 18. Zechariah asked the angel, How can I be sure of this? I am an old man, and my wife is well along in years. Now, obviously, it's not the best response. Zach has had a lifetime of prayer, a lifetime of study, a lifetime of service to the Lord, but there is no expectation to encounter anything out of the ordinary, anything out of routine. There's no expectation within him for that. It is like, it's like many of us. We are willing to go to church or to Bible study, uh, and with no expectation that maybe God might show up, with no expectation of being surprised that God may come to us in those moments. This is how, Zechariah is. It's like this. It's like praying the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven. And then you hear God say, yes. And then you say, Lord, be quiet. I'm praying. Yeah. We become so used to routine that there is no opening in us for the appearance of God to us. We make no room for the inbreaking of God. We sort of sleepwalk or slumber through our faith because it's just become rote to us. So when God does show up, when God does happen, we don't know what to do. Or when we are told what God wants to do that's way outside our box, we focus on what makes that impossible for Him to do. Lord, that's all good and fine, but, I'm too old. My wife is too old. We can't, that's just impossible. You may want to do that, but that just isn't possible, God. This is too much for Zach to accept. I heard this statement once. Those of us who have the best reasons to trust often have the hardest time trusting. Now, let me make that statement again. Those of us who have the best reasons to trust often have the hardest time trusting. In other words, it's too risky to trust more than what we're trusting right now. We've gotten used to the level of trust that we're living in, and we don't want to risk what has become very comfortable to us. Now, what did the angel do with Zach's response when he said those words in verse 18? Well, here, let's listen to verses 19 and 20. The angel said to him, I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I have been sent to speak to you and tell you this good news. Now this is his response. Verse 20. Now you will be silent and not able to speak until the day this happens, because you did not believe my words, which will come true at their appointed time. If an angel, well, just some advice, okay? If an angel shows up around you, all you have to do is say two things. This is all you have to do. You have to say, wow, and yes. And that's it. You don't need to say anything else. Just wow and yes. Anything else you say to an angel has great potential of being the wrong thing to say. So just say, wow, and yes. Zach didn't say, wow, and yes, and so he got into trouble. The angel says, I am Gabriel. I wonder, this is just, Scott Latham here. I wonder how he said that. Was it angry and loud? I am Gabriel. Did he say it like that? Just putting myself in that situation, I think I would have wet myself. Or did he say it soft and scary? I am Gabriel. I don't know. The point is that Zechariah would have known who Gabriel was. Zach knew the Old Testament. He knew the story of Daniel where Gabriel is first seen. He would have known Gabriel was sent by God to speak for God in Daniel's time, and now is in front of him at the altar of incense and doing the same thing. So, to verify that his words are true and trustworthy, Gabriel now gives Zechariah a sign. Zach will have no words to say until Gabriel's words come to pass. He is now struck silent. And, let me just pause and, that might not be a good response to Christmas anyway. To just find some space in these days of hectic shopping, of all kinds of activity, of cooking, of, that may be different this year than all other years, but it might be a good thing in our preparation for Christmas to find some place of silence, to listen. Listen deeper. Listen to the deeper parts of life. Listen for Him. Verses 21 and through 23. Meanwhile, the people were waiting for Zechariah and wondering why he stayed so long in the temple. And when he came out, he could not speak to them. They realized he had seen a vision in the temple, for he kept making signs to them, but remained unable to speak. And when his time of service was completed, he returned home. The guy who wanted Gabriel to explain himself couldn't explain himself when he came out in front of the people. I mean, what would you do if you were Zechariah? You step out on that front platform of the temple and then do what? Pantomime, I guess is what you do. It's like, what would you do? Really? Verses 23 through 25. When his time of service was completed, and he returned home, and after this his wife Elizabeth became pregnant, and for 5 months remained in seclusion. You can read into that. She was silent. The Lord has done this for me, she said. In these days he has shown his favor and taken away my disgrace among the people. Please notice Elizabeth evidently did not have a problem believing an angel she didn't see. As well as the people waiting for Zach to come out of the temple, they didn't have a problem believing he had seen a vision they had not seen or even heard. But Zach, who saw and heard, had trouble believing. But notice something now. Christmas is going to come whether we believe it or not. Whether Zach believed it or not, this was going to happen. Beloved, Jesus is coming whether we believe it or not. He's coming to us moment by moment, whether we believe it or not. And one day, someday, in his greatest glory, as King of Kings, he will return, whether we believe it or not. Let's skip over to verses 57 through 61. Luke chapter 1, skipping over to verse 57 through 61. When it was time for Elizabeth to have her baby, she gave birth to a son. Her neighbors and relatives heard that the Lord had shown her great mercy, and they shared her joy. On the 8th day they came to circumcise the child, and they were going to name him after his father Zechariah. But his mother spoke up and said, "No, he is to be called John." And they said to her, "There is no one among your relatives, who has that name." Let's just stop for a moment. Now, to me, this is one of the places that proves the Bible is true about human nature. Naming a child by committee. Have you ever experienced that? Diane and I, in our what we learned to do, and what many young couples do now, is they keep it a secret because they don't want that kind of business about what? You don't want to name him that. That poor child will be scarred for life with the name John. Okay, that's so upsetting to us. Let's go ask the guy who can't speak. That's what we're going to do. So here comes verse 62. Then they made signs to his father to find out what he would like to name the child. He asked for a writing tablet, and to everyone's astonishment, he wrote, "His name is John." Immediately his mouth was opened, and his tongue set free. And he began to speak, praising God. All the neighbors were filled with awe. Throughout the hill country of Judea, people were talking about all these things. Everyone who heard this wondered about it, asking, "What then is this child going to be?" For the Lord's hand was with him. The neighborhood is shocked and stunned and filled with awe. The moment Zach writes the name Johanna, which means Yahweh has been gracious or Yahweh has given grace, the moment he writes the name, he can speak again. Now, I just want you to notice something here. Obedience leads to awe. Obedience leads to awe. Please notice that the voice and the wonder came when the baby was named, not when he was born. Obedience leads to awe. The naming gave the opening to speaking again. Everyone has gotten used to Zach being silent. It's been 9 months. And suddenly he spoke after writing the name the angel told him to give the child. This was unexpected by everyone. No one saw it coming except maybe Zach. The angel appearing in the temple was unexpected. Zach's silence was unexpected. Elizabeth's pregnancy was unexpected. The name John was unexpected. Zach speaking again was unexpected. The unexpected Christmas. Advent, beloved, is about waiting for an arrival. It's about waiting with expectancy. It's about waiting with anticipation. Is it possible, beloved, to wait for the unexpected? Is it possible to expect the unexpected? I know sometimes the thought of waiting for the unexpected can be somewhat fearful. It can be worrisome. It can cause us anxiousness. I mean, we sometimes want to avoid the unexpected or try to ignore it or try to plan and predict all we can to reduce the unexpected to as little as possible. But you see, Advent is a time where we nurture an expectation for something outside the box. Something that God is doing that is so beyond our imagination. It is unexpected. Are you preparing for this? For the arrival of the unexpected from God. Now, I'm not trying to get you to be edgy about Christmas or seek some unconventional ways to celebrate the holidays. I just know that familiarity, helpful as it is, will also most often squelch wonder and awe. I mean, when was the last time God astonished you? And could your answer to that question be due to how much room you make in your life for the unexpected? Or do you simply work to stay with what is familiar? Wonder and awe are most accessible in new situations where we have not written a script for what is supposed to happen. In other words, when there is the unexpected, that is where you will find wonder and awe. Maybe the best way to end tonight in talking to you is to ask you to consider preparing for the unexpected this Advent. In other words, try to develop an openness for 4 weeks, really for all year. An openness to God to do something unfamiliar, something unpredicted, something unexpected in your life. Whatever that might mean for Him, believing that whatever comes unexpected from Him is really a fruit of His love for you. Could we chase after that? Could we pursue that? Could we wait with expectancy and anticipation for that? That is the unexpected Christmas. Well, beloved, we will continue to talk about this in our Wednesday nights before Christmas. I pray that the Advent season is just blessing you so much. I will offer that one of the things that the Latham Nation does is that we purchase a book all together, an Advent book, one that has Advent devotions for the season, and we read it together, and then we keep a texting thread with a bunch of us on it, giving comments and insights and things like that. It's really fun to do. And let me encourage you, this is one way that you can open yourself up to what God might be wanting to do in terms of something unexpected for you this Advent season. Well, blessings to you. Thank you for joining in, and look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye.